My mother-in-law tampered with my meal. Toprove, my life-threatening allergy, was a lie. My last ounce of patience died right there. Can you believe someone you thought was family would try to kill you? Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, meticulously planning your death for years. All to prove some twisted point? Because that's my story, and it almost cost me everything. I've lived with a severe shellfish allergy my entire life. We're talking throat-closing, can't breathe, EpiPen or UDI kind of allergy. When I met James, my now husband, I laid it all out on our second date. Restaurants were always a minefield, and I needed him to understand why I was so meticulous about ingredients. He was incredible, honestly. Always my biggest advocate, double-checking menus, carrying extra EpiPens, making sure every restaurant knew the drill. But James's mother, Linda? She was a whole different story. The second James mentioned my allergy to her, she literally rolled her eyes. Young people these days, she'd huff, claiming allergies for attention. She'd go on about how in her day no one had allergies, and everyone was just fine. I tried everything, showed her my medical alert bracelet, prescription papers, even offered for my allergist to call her. She just waved it off, muttering about doctors diagnosing anything for money. Those first few family dinners were pure agony. Linda would whip up these elaborate seafood feasts, then act personally offended when I couldn't touch them. She'd dramatically sigh, claiming she'd forgotten about my fake allergy, then grudgingly make something else. James would bring safe food for me, but she'd call it an insult to her cooking. Then the real nastiness started. She accused me of using my allergy to control James, to make myself special, to demand attention at every meal. She'd tell anyone who'd listen I was ruining family dinners with my pickiness, and then the testing began. She'd swear a dish was safe. Then, after I'd eaten it, she'd casually mention, "Oh, there might have been a little shrimp paste in that sauce. But since you didn't react, you must be cured." I'd panic, pop Benadryl, and anxiously wait for symptoms while she just laughed, calling me dramatic. James would get furious, but Linda would just dissolve into tears, claiming she was just trying to help me overcome my mental block about seafood. Then she graduated to outright poisoning. She'd start hiding seafood in everything, tiny amounts at first. Ground dried shrimp in seasonings, oyster sauce and vegetables, sneaking fish sauce into marinades. Each time, I'd feel that telltale itch in my throat, the tingling on my lips, and I'd have to scramble for Benadryl. Linda would dismiss it as psychosomatic. "If you really had an allergy, you'd be in the hospital," she'd sneer. She didn't grasp that these small doses were just below the anaphylaxis threshold, but still causing real reactions. James actually caught her adding something to my plate once. She just claimed it was extra seasoning. We stopped going to her house for dinner, but she'd show up at our place with food, always insisting it was specially made for me. I started refusing everything she made. She, of course, told the entire family I was doing it to be spiteful. It all culminated at James's birthday dinner. We were at a restaurant, and Linda, true to form, insisted on ordering for everyone, saying she knew the menu best. She picked a pasta dish for me, swearing it was safe. The waiter even double-checked. "No shellfish, ma'am." I was starving and, honestly, just exhausted from the constant battle. So I ate it. Within minutes, my throat began to close. My vision blurred. James, bless his soul, moved like lightning. He jabbed the EpiPen into my thigh while simultaneously dialing 911. The next thing I knew, I was in the hospital. The doctor's words echoed in my ears. I'd ingested concentrated shellfish extract. Enough to kill someone with my allergy level if James hadn't acted so fast. Linda, of course, showed up at the hospital, playing the picture of a concerned mother-in-law. But the nurse was sharp. She asked how shellfish extract ended up in my safe pasta. Linda mumbled about the restaurant making a mistake. What she didn't know was the restaurant manager was already there, footage in hand, terrified of a lawsuit. The video showed it all. James and I going to the bathroom. Linda alone at the table for 3 minutes. She looked around twice, pulled a small bottle from her purse, poured something into my pasta, stirred it with my fork, then casually put the bottle away. She waited. The manager had even saved my plate for testing. The police were called. Linda tried to argue it was just fish sauce for flavor. She didn't know it would hurt me. The officer, a sharp woman named Lorraine Boyd, deadpanned. "Ma'am, why did you bring fish sauce to a restaurant?" Linda claimed she always carried seasonings. Officer Boyd asked to see her purse. What they found? I still get chills thinking about it. Right there in the hospital hallway, Officer Boyd pulled out 3 small bottles. Medical labels. Precise measurements. Her face hardened as she held them up. Concentrated shellfish extract. Pharmaceutical grade. The kind labs use for allergy testing. Linda started to back away, but Officer Boyd wasn't done. From the depths of that purse, she pulled out a blue spiral notebook. As she flipped through it, I watched her expression turn to stone. Dated entries going back 2 years. Each one described my reactions to food Linda had given me. One read, "tiny amount in sauce." Subject showed mild reaction, proving psychological component. Another, increased dose in marinade. Subject took antihistamine, but no hospital visit, confirming mental block theory. 20 entries, documenting how Linda had systematically been poisoning me, all to prove I was faking. Officer Boyd looked at Linda with absolute disgust. Linda's face crumpled. Tears streamed. She reached for the notebook, but the officer snatched it back. Linda whimpered. I was just trying to help her overcome her mental block about seafood. Exposure therapy works for phobias. I read it online. Officer Boyd cut her off. Ma'am, this isn't a phobia. It's a documented medical condition. What you did constitutes attempted murder. Linda gasped as if slapped. Handcuffs appeared. Linda was sobbing. It's a misunderstanding. I never meant to hurt anyone. Officer Boyd didn't care. The cuffs clicked shut. I watched from my doorway as they led Linda away. She kept turning back, eyes red, screaming, I'm misunderstood. Other patients, nurses, everyone stared. James stood beside me, his arm around my waist, his whole body shaking. James came back to my room, a ghost of himself. He pulled a chair right up to my bed, his hands cold and trembling as he gripped mine. His face was ravaged, eyes red-rimmed and wet. I should have protected you better, he choked out, his voice breaking. I should have cut her off years ago when the testing started. My own body ached, raw and shaky from the EpiPen, but I squeezed his hand. This isn't your fault, James. She's an adult. She made her choices. He just shook his head. I knew she was testing you. I didn't do enough. I tried to remind him we'd stopped going to her house, stopped eating her food. It wasn't enough, he whispered. She still found a way. I had no words, so I just held him as he cried. Later that night, the doctor came in. She sat on the edge of my bed, her expression grim. That dose Linda gave you, she said softly. It could have killed you in minutes. If James hadn't used that EpiPen immediately, you wouldn't have made it. My stomach dropped. Then came the gut punch. Your body has been exposed to repeated small doses over 2 years. That kind of exposure can actually worsen allergies, not cure them. You'll likely have increased sensitivity to shellfish now. You might need to carry 2 EpiPens. I wanted to scream. Linda, with her twisted exposure therapy, had literally made my condition worse. The next morning, my sister, Catalina, burst through the door. She'd driven 4 hours, straight through the night to get to me. One look at me, still hooked up to the 4, and she started crying. Then, furious, her face turned beet red as she paced. I never trusted Linda, she spat. Always gave me bad vibes. Why didn't you tell me how bad it had gotten? I felt a flush of shame. I was trying to keep the peace for James's sake. Catalina stopped dead, staring at me. That sounds really stupid now, doesn't it? When you almost died. She was right. I'd endured 2 years of Linda's abuse, all to avoid family problems. Catalina sat down, her gaze softening. "From now on," she said, "you tell me everything. I don't care about keeping peace with people who try to kill you." I promised. 3 days later, the phone rang. It was Blake McCarthy, the district attorney. He wanted to meet. In his office, Blake, sharp suit, tired eyes, had everything laid out. The notebook, the bottles, photos from the restaurant footage. He told us they were filing charges. Attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. The notebook, he explained, shows clear, premeditated planning. The pharmaceutical-grade extract? Clear intent to harm. He felt confident. James asked about prison time. 15 to 20 years for attempted murder, Blake stated. It should have felt good, but I just felt exhausted. I didn't want to think about Linda or trials. I just wanted to eat a meal without fear again. A week later, James's phone rang. It was his dad, Kenji. We met him at a coffee shop. Kenji looked utterly broken, like he'd aged 10 years overnight. He started talking the moment we sat down. He had no idea, he swore. Linda always dismissed my allergy when he wasn't around, but with him, she played the concerned role. "She's been lying to me for years," he said, his hands trembling as he stirred his coffee. Then he dropped the bombshell he was filing for divorce. He couldn't stay married to someone who tried to kill his daughter-in-law. He wanted to testify against her. James's face crumbled. It broke his heart, even though he understood. Kenji reached across and squeezed James's hand, apologizing for not seeing through Linda sooner. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unrecognized number. I answered. Immediately regretted it. Linda's sister was screaming. "You're tearing the family apart. Linda would never hurt anyone. You must have provoked her. You're so dramatic about a little seafood." I tried to explain about the concentrated extract, the notebook. She just yelled over me. "Families forgive. You're being vindictive." She called Linda a good woman who made one mistake. I hung up. My hands were shaking. James was furious, promising to block her. But the damage was done. I realized then there were people who would always take Linda's side, no matter the evidence. I was the villain. Nothing would change their minds. Blake called us back in. He had the forensic analysis of the shellfish extract. Medical grade, concentrated allergen, he explained, costs hundreds. You have to order it from specialty suppliers. Actively search for it online. Pay for expedited shipping. Sign forms confirming you understand what it is. This wasn't a spontaneous act. This was planned. Linda spent time, money, and effort to acquire something to kill me. She researched. She waited. The report solidified it. This wasn't a confused old woman. This was a calculated attack. Returning home from the hospital, I tried to go back to normal, but everything felt off. I'd make myself lunch, then just stare at it, my heart pounding, hand shaking. I couldn't bring myself to eat anything I hadn't prepared from scratch. Even then, panic would claw at me. James would order takeout and I'd refuse. I lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks. James called my doctor, who recommended a trauma therapist, Summer Castillo. Summer was a godsend. She calmly explained that this was a normal trauma response. My brain was trying to protect me by making me terrified of food. She gave me breathing exercises, homework, like eating one meal James prepared each week. It was slow, but it helped. Knowing I wasn't losing my mind was a lifeline. Meanwhile, James spent 3 days calling every family member he could think of. His cousin answered. Linda had given her a safe sauce 2 years ago, swearing it was okay for tomato sensitivity. An hour later, hives. Swollen face. Linda blamed a mislabeled can, but the cousin later found the empty can, clearly labeled tomatoes, in the trash. She thought it was a mistake. Now she knew. James's uncle told a similar story about his girlfriend, who had a severe dairy allergy. Linda made her a special dessert for Thanksgiving. Our visit, throat closing. Linda blamed for getting the cream cheese, but the uncle found the container hidden deep in the trash. James's list grew. 7 different people over 5 years, each with an allergy Linda deemed fake. Each ended up sick, some hospitalized. I was just the one who finally had the proof to nail her. 6 weeks after the poisoning, we went to the preliminary hearing. The courthouse reeked of floor cleaner and old paper. Linda, in a soft blue dress, looked like anyone's sweet grandma. Her lawyer, smirking, asked if I had a history of being dramatic about my allergy. Blake shot up with an objection. The judge allowed my testimony. I said Linda had been trying to poison me for 2 years. That sounds extreme, the lawyer challenged. She literally poisoned me, I shot back, with concentrated shellfish extract. Blake presented my medical records, hospitalizations from accidental exposure since I was 6, all matching what Linda did. The defense tried to argue she was a confused old woman, trying to help me overcome a mental block. Blake waited. Then he asked to play the video. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as the security footage played. James and I left. Linda alone looked around twice, pulled the bottle, poured, stirred, put it back, looked around again. The judge looked at Linda for a long, hard moment. Clear premeditation, he stated. She knew exactly what she was doing and tried to hide it. This woman is a danger. Linda was held without bail. She started crying. It's not fair. Her lawyer tried to argue, but the judge was done. They led Linda away through a side door. 2 weeks after the hearing, James and I started couples therapy with Summer. James was still drowning in guilt. I should have protected you, he'd repeat. Should have cut her off years ago. Part of me wanted to comfort him, but another part was screaming. I almost died. I'm the one who can't eat without panicking. Yet, I was spending half our sessions managing his feelings. Summer, wise as ever, stepped in. She said we were both victims, just in different ways. His guilt was valid, but it couldn't become my job to fix it while I was grappling with my own trauma. She taught us how to support each other without drowning together. James started individual therapy for his guilt. I learned to ask for support instead of pretending to be strong. Slowly it helped. 3 weeks later, Blake called again. He had a thick folder, Linda's forensic psychology report, 40 pages summarized. Narcissistic personality disorder. She truly believed she was helping people overcome fake limitations because she didn't have severe allergies that couldn't possibly be real. Her pathological need to be right trumped any empathy, any concern for safety. She would never accept responsibility. She would always be the victim. Everyone else was wrong. She was trying to help. This makes her dangerous, Blake stated. Even in prison, even with treatment, she'll likely never change. More family members cut ties with Linda, especially after hearing about the other victims. James's dad, Kenji, filed for divorce. Some cousins reached out, offering support. Then a letter arrived. Shaky handwriting on the envelope. James's aunt. 3 cramped pages. Drop the charges. Prison would kill Linda. Family forgives. I was being cruel, tearing the family apart. Linda made a mistake. Didn't deserve a ruined life. My hands shook as I read it. I showed it to Blake. He read it carefully. Witness tampering, he said flatly. He made a copy for evidence. She probably didn't realize she was breaking the law, but she was. 2 weeks later, Blake called again. Plea deal. Aggravated assault. 5 to 8 years. Mandatory psychiatric treatment. It'll be faster, he said. Less emotional. But it wasn't attempted murder. It wasn't the full consequences. James and I talked for hours. I was exhausted, yes. I wanted it over. But she tried to murder me. So we rejected the deal. We wanted a trial. We wanted justice. Blake then arranged a victim impact session. Other people Linda had hurt wanted to meet me. In a conference room, I met 2 women. One had a severe peanut allergy. Linda put peanut butter in her sauce 3 years ago. Anaphylaxis. Hospital. Linda called it an accident. The other woman had celiac disease. Linda made her a gluten-free dish 2 years ago. Violently sick for 3 days. It had regular flour. Linda blamed a mislabeled package. Both women had thought they were alone, that it was bad luck. Now they knew. Linda targeted them. We talked, shared stories, cried. Linda wasn't just someone who made bad choices. She was a serial abuser. She enjoyed proving people wrong, enjoyed making them sick, then acting like they were overreacting. The other victims agreed to testify. Multiple victims. A pattern. Juries would see. Linda wasn't confused. She knew. The trial began that October. 2 weeks of hell. Blake called my doctor, the restaurant manager, the forensic specialist, the other victims. I testified for 6 grueling hours. Linda's lawyer tried everything. Confused grandmother, mentally ill. No real harm intended. But Blake had the notebook, the expensive, medical-grade shellfish extract, the security footage, the 5-year pattern of abuse, my medical records. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Then the bailiff. Verdict reached. My heart hammered. Back in the courtroom, the foreman stood. Guilty of attempted murder. My breath hitched. The judge's voice was hard. 15 years, parole after 10, mandatory psychiatric treatment. Her complete lack of remorse, he said, makes her a danger. Linda exploded. This is my fault, she shrieked. You destroyed the family. The bailiff grabbed her, but she kept yelling as they dragged her away. Watching her face contort with that rage, something inside me finally let go. All that guilt I'd carried for pressing charges for James, for breaking up his family, it all dissolved. Her outburst proved it. She still didn't get it. She still thought she was the victim. James squeezed my hand. We walked out. James and I walked out of that courthouse hand in hand. We found a new apartment across town, a fresh start away from all the toxic memories. Kenji helped us move, even stayed for dinner, meticulously checking every ingredient on every label. The family did split right down the middle. Some understood, others thought we were cruel. James's aunt, of course, never spoke to us again. We learned to be okay with that division. I found a support group for people dealing with abusive family members. They understood the bizarre grief of losing someone who was still alive. They got why I felt sad about Linda, even though I knew she needed to be where she was. Summer, my therapist, kept working with me. Slowly, I started calling restaurants again, talking directly to chefs, asking detailed questions. I ate out 3 times in 1 month without a panic attack. James and I learned to talk through everything, even the hard stuff. We fought, yes, but we worked through it, no more pretending. A year after that horrible night, I woke up and realized something profound. I felt good, truly good. I even started a blog about navigating severe allergies, sharing my story. Hundreds of people reached out, thanking me, saying they'd felt so alone. James and I are even talking about starting a family. I feel ready, confident that I can teach our kids to set boundaries, to protect themselves. Linda is in prison, and she'll be there for years. It still makes James sad sometimes, and I get it. But we both know it's the only way to keep everyone safe. I still carry 2 EpiPens in a special case. I probably always will. But I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just careful, which is exactly how I should be. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with family, even when it felt impossible? Or dealt with someone who just refused to believe your truth? Tell me your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them.